We are back with part three of our chat with Tim. And we are chatting about his journey of including sexuality and pleasure into the wholeness of who he is and what that's been like for him. So definitely check out part 1 and 2. And this is part 3, where we are going to talk about, we went through where you were, what were some big needle movers for you? And now I'm curious as to, you've been on this journey, you've been doing all this work. What's the result of all this today? How has your life shifted and changed since you started this journey as compared to where you are today?
Well, for me, it's actually really interesting. I feel like I have a deeper and better appreciation for who I am. But more importantly, I feel like I have been able to cull through my interpersonal relationships, my relations with other people, and the ones that have really survived have become really strong and solid, and they're really at a place of healthy boundaries. And my partner and I are in a much healthier place to really have honest conversations about what our needs are and find ways to have those met. Um, and it's not always in the bedroom. It turns out that there's lots of things that we can do in our shared company that bring us pleasure and that we can do together. And that there's some things we need to do on our own and we need to cultivate that space. So for me personally, where I'm at, I feel like I'm in a healthy place and a healthy place with how I relate to others in my life in a way that I wasn't able to do before because um, I really had those kind of the bill of goods that I had been sold by society about being selfless and always trying to do what other people need meant that I got resentful and I didn't want to be there anymore. And my default was to run away from situations. And I still exit out of situations now, but I do it with a lot more intentionality and with a lot more purpose. And because of the work that I've done, I can actually do it rather quickly. And I know when I need to disengage in a different way. I still slip, and sometimes I still struggle to communicate effectively. But I do feel that I'm a better communicator of what the real needs are in a situation in the bedroom, out of the bedroom, and with my partner, and with others in my life, and even with the experiences that I seek out and engage in opportunities that I want to have in life. I feel like I'm better able to go forward and seek out the ones that I feel will be nourishing and sustainable for me.
Awesome. So it sounds like you've gotten a really clear understanding of what feeds you and what doesn't, what brings you joy, and you found different ways to fill those needs.
Yeah.
And you have also really been able to get to know what your values are and what your standards are, and you're calling out sooner than later, like yes or no in a situation. So instead of dragging something out that is like not the best, you're able to just draw the line, or you're able to open to allow yourself to receive pleasure, joy, connection, fulfillment from other areas you maybe wouldn't have been open to before because you had a different perspective.
Yeah, and I think related to that point, because I think that's spot on, that's exactly how I've experienced it is that I think for some people, because we're deprived and we're not honest with what our real needs are, then we can't actually hold an honest container or an honest relation because we're not able to truly understand what it is that we're not getting out of it or what we're not getting for ourselves because we're not thinking that we should also think about what we need or even think about what we need first. So and again, I can call myself as a white male out. I think that sometimes white men aren't honest with ourselves about what we really want to get out of the situation and if we should engage in that situation in the first place. So if you don't have an honest understanding about what you really need, it's not cool, nor appropriate, nor fair to masquerade into a situation with ulterior motives or other ideas about what should happen, and then to use a power dynamic or structure to take what you want. And so I'm not going to say that before Tim was a taker, but before Tim wasn't in a safe space to engage in the world from a place of truly understanding what he wanted out of the world to begin with. And so I think if you are a person who struggles with, I want to be a respectful, appropriate human in the world, get clear with what you want out of the world first, allowing you to engage with pure authenticity with what it is that you're trying to achieve and get.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, it's the honesty, self-honesty, because, when we've had all this programming to have shame or guilt around our needs or desires, then yeah, sometimes it's hard to even be honest with ourselves about what we really want, you know? So yeah, that's a huge point of getting honest with yourself first. And so that you can be honest with other people, and then we could make an accurate decision on how to move forward or not, because both of us are speaking from our truth. And that way there's no manipulation or coercion. It's based on consent, authentic consent, because we are in alignment with ourselves.
Yeah. You can't have consent if you don't express to others what it truly is that you're wanting them or to provide you with. And you can't be true to yourself and have a relationship with yourself if you don't know what you're trying to get for yourself in the world either. So I just think that there's a lot more self-awareness and clarity around more holistically what it is that I want to try to, what a life well lived means for me. First and foremost, what do I want from my life and what do I want to fill my life with in the bedroom, out of the bedroom, at work, at play, in all these different domains. And again, it goes back to, sure, it was sex and relationship work that we were doing, but it really fills into being more intrapersonal within my self relationship. What's my relationship with myself today? And do I truly honor and respect all aspects of my being? Because I can say I'm a lot closer to doing that today than I was 2.5 years ago when all the trauma started to pile up on me during the pandemic. Because I didn't realize until I shut down that I had been living a severed life. And then, secondly, how can I be honest with the others intrapersonally, the others in my life, as I engage with them about what I'm really trying to achieve? And if we really have a shared vision and mission of what that's going to be. And that's true of all aspects of my life now.
I just love this. Yeah, doing the sex and relationship work, how it flows out into the rest of our lives and starts making shifts from that way. I just love that.
Yeah, again, it's like the litmus test. I mean, not everybody needs to go to Bud's training to be a Navy SEAL, but if you want to do the hard work the hard way, go to the bedroom and try to do it. Try to be open and honest and vulnerable about what is you really get you off. And then once you do that work, then you can do a lot of other self work as well. But more importantly, from where I was at is that that was part of who I was. So by denying that aspect of me, I was denying myself of my reality in myself too. So it actually, there was multiple reasons that it was effective for me personally. So that was really helpful. But it was just getting right in my head at this moment and this time in my life on this part of the journey about what it is that I'm trying to do. And that those tools and those skills will bubble out and fill out into other areas if you're cultivating that type of awareness within yourself and transcendence and transformation into all aspects.
Yeah, I love that. It's the process of embodiment, really, is what I'm
Really
hearing you say. So it's like taking these concepts and ideas and then starting to put them into practice in your life and practicing them until they become part of you.
Yeah.
And then now we're living these values and principles, not just knowing them in our head. Because a
Right.
lot of us are really smart, like too smart for our own good. And we can tell you all the things that we know, but what we're actually doing and how we're feeling and how we're living is not necessarily consistent or in alignment with what we know to be true,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, that is
So
very true. And I definitely was before 10 was more in that earlier camp of I knew all the stuff that was supposed to happen. I'd done all the reading, I had done all that work, but I hadn't necessarily done the harder work of really honoring and holding space for myself to live that work into reality, breathe it into life.
so how is living the work that you've been practicing for the past few years on this journey?
Still
How is
hard.
that? It's what?
It's still hard.
It's still hard.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is that once you get to one plateau, you realize there's more to climb. So it's not as if I've reached a destination. It wasn't as if I was striving for a single point on a map or a single elevation. I was really striving to live a full life, and living a full life is going to shift and change as life shifts and changes, and life throws you curveballs and challenges, and something blows up in your face. So it's an ever evolving situation, but it is easier than it used to be because I at least know where to start. Start with myself, start with checking in with what I need and what I want, checking with my intentions and how if I'm manifesting those in the world, if they're being true to those intentions. And when I don't get so upset with myself that I don't allow myself to slip a little bit, but stop the slip from turning into a massive catastrophic fall. But even when that happens, I've learned time and time again as I struggle and fail, it's how I get back up, and did I acquire wisdom to do something differently next time, to try something different.
Excellent. That's
It's not easy.
beautiful. Yeah, no, I mean, oh wow. Yeah, it's the journey. It's a journey, not a destination. Totally relate to that. And sometimes I like to be like, no, wait, I want to arrive somewhere, I want to get
You can arrive many places. It's a multi destination voyage.
right. Yeah, and like, yeah, the reality is like the only place we arrive to is the present, and it's right now. That's really all we have is the present.
Yeah, right.
And
If you could just show up in the moment, you've done the first thing, the most important thing. If you just simply show up and you're honestly in the moment and you're tuning in to yourself first, and then you can tune in to what's going on around you, you just hit a home run.
yeah, it's learning that presence, and that's why we call a lot of this stuff practices,
That's
because
right.
we are practicing. Excuse me,
Not
it's not
perfect.
going to be, yeah, perfect. And progress, I think, is more important than perfection. So if, as long as we're doing a little bit better today, than we have in the past, then that's still forward momentum. And I'm also hearing you like, hey, giving yourself a break and saying it's not the end of the world if we fall back into old thought behavior patterns, because they are ingrained in us. It's something we're shifting over time. And so catching it sooner than later before it turns into
That's right.
something bigger than it really needs to be. And that practice of coming back into self, coming back into center when we get off track, excuse me, and then you stay there in center longer rather than hopping out. Like now you're here longer and it's easier to come back to here because you're more grounded in this space and you still have this ongoing practice.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. That's exactly what my experience has been, and where I'm at today is I'm not perfect, and I don't know anybody who is perfect, but um, that's not the point. The point is showing up day in every day and just putting the time in to be be the most authentic person who I can be. And doing that means understanding who I want to be in the moment and how I want to present and interact with the world in the moment, and how I want my value systems to manifest themselves in all aspects of my life now. And there are no blind alleys that I don't look down, which there used to be, where I don't hold myself worthy of looking and knowing and understanding and bringing that into the forefront of consideration for what the world and possibilities should hold for me.
It's beautiful. So what other like words of wisdom would you have for someone like that's kind of thinking like, I'm on that tipping point of kind of exploring this stuff, because lots of people like to have conversations about it and consultations about it, and there's a smaller percent that are actually willing to do the work and to really dive in and make the commitment to themselves to go
Yeah.
on this. So what would you say to anybody that's kind of on that fence there or starting to question, like, is this journey for me?
Well, I think the first things to do is to figure out what fits within your wheelhouse of comfort. We don't start from a place of comfort within ourselves that we can connect to, then it's going to be really, really hard. So I think that realizing that it can be baby stepped into certain topics, and that maybe you find a link into the work that resonates and feels true to you, and you can resonate easier. And that could be your initial foothold onto the precipice that you want to climb, knowing that there'll be more treacherous bits along the way, but along the way, you'll be able to delve in and pull up other tools that you didn't feel comfortable exploring at first. So I really think it's a gradual process for me, at least it was, of finding where the comfort initially was, and then feeling safe within that comfort space to expand into the more uncomfortable aspects of it. So breath work, meditative practices, body movement are all things that I brought when we started working together, things that I had practiced for years that I felt comfortable with. It allowed me to then slowly move into entertaining and journaling about deeper aspects of what that might look like in more of a sexualized content with a partner or with myself, and then to explore that areas that I did not feel nearly as comfortable exploring up front. So I think for me, it was coming out of a place from, how does this relate into a world sphere that I already understand and hold? And actually, some of the listeners might think that I've deflected quite a bit back to all aspects of my life, but I think that was a comfort for me, was realizing that I wasn't going to do this work for myself solely for the sexual pleasure, but I actually thought, and I started to see how this might actually allow me to be a more complete human being. And that felt comfortable to me. For others who might be pursuing this, are like, oh, fuck that. I can just come straight in and say, I want better sex. I want a better sex life. I want to last longer. I want to be able to do and have this partner or multiple partners that I can come into and have lots of pleasure with. Good for you, buddy. That might be exactly what you need and where your comfort level is, but that's not for all of us. And that wasn't for me. I may have gotten to more of that place and I may have unlocked some of those tools, but I definitely came at it from thinking about it differently. And that is not a judgment there. One way or one path is no better than the other. It's what will work for you to be sustainable in the long run, to allow you to be the person who you want to be. And that takes a lot of introspection and hard work for yourself.
That's beautiful. And tell me about, because I know we've done a lot of work together, and I know that you had done a lot of work before we started working together. So could you just touch on how having a coach or a person that you're working with in like a professional capacity has helped you or accelerated your journey, rather than just kind of hanging out and trying to go it alone? Because a lot of people just want to go it alone, and it's maybe too shameful, or there's like a pride thing, and maybe you don't want to share things with others. Like, how was actually partnering with a professional helped you on this journey?
Well, it provides me with an independent, objective perspective as far as along the way. One, they can, you and others can point me to resources that I can resource myself with. I can go and learn about, I can explore, and I can practice, and I can come back and we can debrief and talk about how things went. Those are both of the things that really benefited me. One, having access to resources and ideas to help to churn, and then I could go off on my own, explore and play with, and come back and report back to debrief and find out, how did that work out? What did you think about that? How did it feel in the moment? What did you learn from it? Being able to screw up in plain sight of a coach is really good too. When you set up a simple activity around setting a container in a PG space, kind of space, which is the space that you and I worked in for the most part, in the PG space, then when you can't even hold space, I joked about, if you can't even take a compliment, you can't receive if you can't take an honest compliment from somebody who might even be your friend. So, I mean, there's so many ways that we mess this up in our daily lives, and it just kind of rolls with it. We may observe it and it builds the shame. And so having a coach to help to pull it out, look at it objectively, and not bring the value judgments to it, and not hold a judgment to it that would allow us to then build up the shame and guilt that we might have otherwise felt. So I think having these safe spaces to do the work in a controlled setting is a really powerful tool that helped me out personally, and might really help out a lot of other people, men and women and others alike, on the continuum of where they find themselves to be as far as their gender identities go. For me personally, that was the most valuable thing. The resources and the tools, the ability to go off and practice and do my homework, come back, reflect, and then also have some simple activities that were set up, allowing us to engage in, allow me to fail or fall, stumble, understand what just happened, and go out, just like a coach would in the practice. You didn't quite do that execution right? Let's talk about it. All right, let's go and try that again. So when you have practice, it's a controlled space that it's not all on the line. It's not game night. It's not going to determine if you're the state champs or not, if you're going to the Super Bowl or not. It's low stakes. And so then you have to find ways to take it into a more high stakes situation and play it out. And that takes automaticity and have this be your default mode of being in the world. And that takes reps and practice for anything to become that.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. So anything else, any other parting words of wisdom for anyone that is on this journey of including sexuality and pleasure into the wholeness of themselves?
Yeah. My only parting words are, you're worth it. You're worth the work for yourself. And maybe you think you're a scum bucket. Maybe you think you're a horrible person. I've been there. I've thought that. But nobody is without some merit and worth as a human, and worthy of investing in further realizing their potential as a human and making that a reality for themselves. So I think those are my parting words, is that you're worth the work, and you're worth being taken as a person worthy of having a pleasure-filled life that's full of contentment, happiness, joy, and all the things, because it's also going to heap pain and trauma and all the others. Those are inevitable. We are going to stumble, fall, have heartbreak. We are going to screw up. We are eventually going to die. It's all going to happen. So what are we going to do with this life we have to live today? How are we going to fill our moments in this life? And are we going to check with ourselves first about what's okay for us to do in the finite time we have to live on this world?
Thank you. It's beautiful. So thank you everyone for joining us in our 3-part adventure. You can follow Holistic Progression, St. Pete Retreat for more information. Join us at one of our workshops or events, and we will see you sooner than later. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you, Stacie.
Okay, Goddess blessings.